Hello everyone, so my name is Glenn Nadella, and my research question was, how did the Montgomery bus boycott and the Little Rock Nine affect the American values and lifestyles in the 50s? So to do this research, I would investigate the two events, Little Rock Nine and the Montgomery bus boycott. So the investigation will include what happened in the events and the consequences of the events, and include the feelings and attitudes between the segregationists, some of them, and the anti-segregationists, most of them, as well as the songs that would match the theme of the events. Let's talk about Little Rock Nine. During the early 50s, the Brown versus Board of Education case struck down the racial segregation in schools. Little Rock Central High School planned to do so gradually. In the fall of 1957, 9 students, Ernest Green, Elizabeth Eckford, Thelma Mothershed, Terrence Roberts, Minnie Jean Brown, Melba Patio, Carlotta Walls, Jefferson Thomas, and Gloria Ray went to the school. Well, tried to when suddenly about 1,000 segregationists showed up and blocked them. Even the governor, Orval Faubus, I'm not really sure how you say his name, called the Arkansas National Guard to prevent them from getting into the school. Elizabeth Eckford was alone when this happened and was being followed by the segregationists. Nowhere else to go, she ended up sitting in a bench while these people surrounded her and started yelling at her. These people felt like their lifestyle was threatened since integration was not their norm back then until that year. They kept on even chanting, 2, 4, 6, 8, we ain't gonna integrate, while following these students around. Anyways, after weeks of trying to get into school but failing, Eisenhower, who was the president during that time, heard about the problem and sent some of his military to escort the students into the school and their classes. He also removed the governor's National Guards. Even with the army near them, the students were still being harassed in hopes to try and get rid of them. They persisted every day just to get an equal education. Minnie Jean Brown was actually the first one to get suspended and then later expelled for throwing chili at 2 of the males and then called the girl white trash. She explained, "I just can't take everything they throw at me without fighting back." She ended up moving to New York City and graduated there. In the end of the year, Ernest Green became Central's first black graduate. The other 7 that was left was forced to go to another school since the voters opted to close all 4 of Little Rock's high schools to prevent further desegregation efforts. Though it seems like a fail, it did have a taste of having desegregation, or as Ernest Green would put it, had a course in human relations firsthand. It also helped create groups like Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Congress of Racial Equality, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and more that helped the movements in the 60s, which eventually changed the lifestyles for both races by being more interactive with each other. And like I said about the 50s getting the feel of integration. The song Ain't Nobody Turn Me Around fit this because they persisted in school every day so that black people would get equal education. The part where it says, "Ain't gonna let the administration turn me around," fit when eventually the students were able to get into the school even if the segregationists and the governor did not want them to do so. Also, the song We Shall Overcome fits this because the lyrics, when it said, "Deep in my heart I do believe we'll walk hand in hand someday," it fit into how they tried to integrate, but even though they failed, the segregationists still believed that they would be able to get integrated soon, which is true since we're all diverse now. For the Montgomery bus boycott, it started when December 1, 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat so that a white man could sit, and was arrested later that day. E.D. Nixon, who was a person that organized protests and other groups, he saw this opportunity, bailed her out of jail, and asked Rosa Parks if he could use the case to start a boycott. Nixon was one of the many black people who was tired of being valued as a second-class citizen and wanted more equality and no segregation everywhere, even in buses. Hearing Nixon's proposal and frustration of being mistreated, Rosa Parks agreed. They posted posters everywhere explaining what happened and how they need all black people to stop riding buses for one day. He held a meeting in church with the help of Martin Luther King, which persuaded people to do the boycott for one day. On December 5, no one rode the buses and helped each other with rides or even walked. Because of the success, the leaders believed that continuing this boycott would eventually get the city to ban segregation on buses. MLK held a mass which blocked the entire church with black people and was able to persuade the people to continue the boycott. For 381 days, they kept on using other ways of transportation other than buses. People rode by friends, employers, neighbors, Negro taxis, or walked, which eventually got the churches to buy cars and later created a successful carpool system. There was also an attempt to bomb the leaders' houses, which the black people became angry, but calmed down when MLK told them not to use violence. He believed and influenced the people that the way to protest and get the people or the government to listen is by not retaliating with violence even if they were being harassed. Later, they ended up choosing to just take this to court and argued that the Brown versus Board of Education applied to not only in schools, but interstate buses too. The Supreme Court ruled this and declared desegregation in interstate buses. The boycott ends, and the lifestyle of interstate buses changed by having races mixed in both front and back of the buses. The song We Shall Overcome fits into this because the lyrics said, "Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday," which connected to when the attacks happened. They did not respond to violence and stuck to having a peaceful protest so that they could finally get equality with the white people. The song Ain't Nobody Turn Me Around also fit this because when Rosa Parks refused to give up the seat to a white man, it showed how she wasn't letting anyone treat her like that just because of their race, since she felt disrespected as well as the other black people during that time. Also, when the bombing and attacks happened to the black people, they refused to give up and continued the boycott, which eventually ended the interstate bus segregation. So, back to my research question. How did the Montgomery bus boycott and the Little Rock Nine affect the American values and lifestyles in the 50s? Well, the bus boycott and the Little Rock Nine inspired the black people to try and change the norm in society's lifestyle of having segregation and attempted to integrate. This was from anger, frustration, like the want for a better, equal society since they felt like they were just second-class citizens and were being mistreated by the segregationists or the white supremacists. Though some succeeded and others failed, it did give an idea of having desegregation in this society, which would eventually lead up to the 60s civil rights movement. A look into the future, which is modern day us. As we can see now, Renton High is one of the most diverse schools in the country. That means there's integration and even equal education. But though we have equal education, we can see that the more general classes have the majority non-colored and colored students, except Asians, while the harder classes have Asians be the majority and the other races be a minority. This isn't the school's fault though, it is how each and every one of us pushes ourselves to value how much we gain our knowledge about the world. The people in the events did not fight for one race to be valued. They fought for everyone to be valued regardless of their race. We cannot slack off or take what we have for granted because people before us went through a lot just to get to where we are now. Instead, we should continue to fight our way through this choice of segregation and beat the stereotypes and discrimination we have now and build a better future for the entire race to be equal. So let's piece it up with this peace and love, and that's peace and love like the old days. Jene Aiko. I'm kidding about the last part, but yeah, we should really stop the thing so that I wrote it. But anyways, thank you, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video.